To get on the same page. I think when we both have two different ideas and you're operating in two different spaces,
Worlds,
yes, yeah.
universes.
You're going to be pulling in one direction and they're going to be pulling in the other. And
you're listening to Get Your Marriage On, the fun and spicy podcast bringing you new tools and fresh ideas so that you can be the sexiest couple you know.
I've heard it said that issues relating to money are the second leading cause of divorce in America. Although we focus a lot on sexual intimacy on this podcast, with Christmas and the financial stress it brings marriages right around the corner, I thought addressing how to get on the same page with your spouse regarding money would be a good topic to address. And that's when I found Ashlee. Ashlee and her husband Dave, I found them on Instagram. They started their marriage with about $250,000 in debt. Anyway, they were both working part-time, going to college full-time, and barely making ends meet. After years of struggling and tears, which you'll hear all about that story on this interview, you'll learn how they were able to finally link arms and get on the same page together. And they currently have only $162,000 left to pay off. Anyway, now Ashlee is a certified financial coach and on a mission to help other couples reach their financial goals by getting on the same page with their spouse when it comes to finances, so they can set up a secure future. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Ashlee, I am so honored to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for coming on.
oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So I want to start with a little bit of foreplay. What's the most romantic date you've ever been on?
Oh man. So my husband is a romantic to like the very core of who he is, and I love him for it. Our first date, he I mean, it's kind of a comical first date, but also romance. So he decided that he was going to say a word to me, and we met in college, and I barely knew him for a week, and he's like, "Hey, can I take you on a date?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, you're cute." And so he decided after he like got me in the car and opened the door that he wasn't going to say a word, and then he was just going to drive and take me somewhere. And he started driving. So I thought, and he was like handing me cute notes along the way, and it was really romantic, except for the fact that I could not read his handwriting.
And he wasn't going to talk.
No, and he wasn't going to talk.
Did he tell you up front, I'm not going to talk?
Yeah. I could like kind of piece out what the notes were saying, but I couldn't like really read them. And then he starts driving in the middle of nowhere, and we're on a dirt road now. And I see, this is a new college town. I've never been in this town before. And we're driving. And all I'm thinking about is, oh my, what did I just get into? He could murder me and chop me up into little pieces and nobody would know. And so he drives, and then we get to the top of a mountain and he starts talking, and it's romantic, and he hands me flowers, and then it was okay. It was really romantic after that. But the lead up, I was just like, what did I just get into?
Did those notes, were they clues for what was coming, or?
Yeah, it's like little things, cute things about like what he liked about me. And he, called me beautiful, and he was like leading up to what we were going to do on our date. But I can read it now. Like looking back, I've learned how to decipher his handwriting. But then I didn't have that skill set yet. So it's romantic and comical all in one. It's a fun story that I love to tell people now.
That's so cool. So the date went well, I'm assuming.
It did, yes.
And then you get married, and then you have a lot of debt. How'd you get into so much debt?
Oh, yes. So my husband, my dear, sweet, wonderful husband, was in that kind of odd spot to where his parents made too much money to qualify for financial aid, but too little money to actually help him to go to college. And for both of our parents said, like, go to college, that's the thing to do. And so after college, well, actually through college, we got married early in our college like career. I think I had a year left, he had 2 years left. But he took out $150,000, and then 15,000 of that was accrued in interest just while he was in college. So that's 175. And then I I brought about $21,000 into the marriage in debt. And then we just did the typical average American thing. We decided, hey, we need a new car, brand spanking new car. And so all of that combined, we're looking at $225,000 in debt. I was 21 and he was 23, and we were still in college. It's just totally nuts when you think about it.
Wow. What were your payments like?
A mortgage. Basically a mortgage. So we had a $400 car payment, and our like monthly student loan payment was right around $1,300 a month. So a mortgage payment for student loans. Yeah.
And were you working at the time?
Yeah. So we got married. We were still in college. And we were both in college full time, working part-time jobs, newlyweds. We had all of this debt. We decided to throw a puppy into the mix. And so we were working, but just part-time, and we were maybe making probably $50,000 combined together. And that was our take-home pay for the year.
Gotcha. So very little money left over for fun.
Mm-hmm. Like hardly any. I remember we would like scrimp and save all of our pennies, and we'd use that, our little change jar. We'd go and like, deposit it and get our money back. And we'd go and buy like little treats or go to Taco Bell. Like that was, that was our fun.
That's good. But was it stressful too?
Completely stressful and overwhelming. I can't even tell you how overwhelming it was to be attacking this Mount Everest of debt with, it felt like a pickaxe. Like we had nothing to throw at this debt. And it seriously impacted our marriage in so many ways. And we were living in like a tiny 600 square foot apartment. And we were doing everything that we could to try and pay off this debt, but we had nothing, no momentum behind us.
Yeah. Tell me more about the frustration and the friction in the marriage.
Yeah.
Any specific stories or like that illustrate the era in your life?
Yes. Lots of stories. Yeah. So like there was one particular time I remember we were sitting down and really like strategizing, okay, here's our debt. Here's our income. Here's the very little that we can budget out to actually afford to live. And I remember just sitting down and looking at the sheet of paper and thinking, how the heck are we going to do this? I have no idea. And emotions got tied in. It escalated rather quickly. And it was like a multiple hour long, tough conversation with my husband. I had tears streaming down my face. He was really frustrated. We were both trying. We both knew that we needed to pay off debt, but he's a spender and he wants to have fun and enjoy life. And I'm a saver. And those two just like mentalities, we butt heads like crazy early on in our marriage. And it took a lot of time for us to get to the point of, oh, hey, we're on the same team. Like we're in this together, and we don't have to be acting like we're enemies because we're in this together.
That's nice. Like, what were some of the things that helped you get to that point though? I'm sure you didn't wake up the next day and go, I got it. We're on the same page now.
No, years and years and years and years. There was one point where after, again, another hard money conversation, my husband looked at me and said, we can be debt-free your way, but you're not going to like our marriage at the end. Basically meaning is I wanted to put every penny that we had towards debt and pay it off as quick as possible. And he wanted to live in the process of paying off debt. And what he was saying was, we can do it your way, but we're not going to have a healthy marriage at the end of it. And it was in that moment that it all clicked for me of, oh my gosh, I am putting money ahead of my relationship with my husband. And this is the wrong balance here. Like I'm doing this the wrong way. And so after that conversation, there was a couple of things that got us to at least go in the right path. And I think the first thing that we did was we first had to understand that we were being malicious because I was a saver and he was a spender. Like we weren't trying to make each other's lives miserable in the slightest. We were trying to do the complete opposite, just in the opposite way of each other.
Right.
So he wanted to um, spend money and have fun and enjoy life and take longer to pay off debt. And I wanted to pay off debt as quickly as possible so that we could enjoy life later. And I think those two combined, once we were able to get on the same page, really, once I knew that he wasn't being malicious to me, I wasn't being malicious to him. That's where it all changed. And that's how we learned to compromise. I think compromise is kind of like a yucky word in the world. And I don't think it is at all. I think compromise is a beautiful thing. It's a picture of two people coming into a marriage together. And through that, you create your own life together. And I think that's such a beautiful picture, but compromise just kind of has this bad rap. And I want to completely like abolish that right now, because compromise is, I think, really beautiful. Just because you're creating your own life with this other person and merging those two worlds together. So that's my first tip, is to know that your spouse isn't being malicious, and that compromise is a beautiful thing, and kind of merging those two ideas. So merging the fact that he's a spender, merging the fact that I'm a saver, and finding that happy medium. It's possible to pay off debt and become financially free, and it's possible to spend a little money and have some fun. And there's ways to have fun that doesn't require spending all the monies, but just to bring that together. So that's definitely the first tip that I have.
I like that. It's like a you, and instead of like a you versus a me, it's like forging a new we.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
You, me, and then a we. So it's creating a we. Where compromise might be, I get half of what I want, so I'm happy half the time. You get half of what you want, so you're happy and unhappy half the time, and you're both unmiserable. But what you're doing is, you're not saying that kind of a compromise. It's more of a creating a new view, like a new we.
Yes, yeah, together. Yeah, I think, when you sacrifice so many things, you start to get
resentful.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
And resentment's toxic to relationships.
So toxic. And so I think that's the mentality that we have around this compromise, is it's just, you resent him, he resents you. It just creates this like toxic back and forth. But when you look at it as you both have valuable insights and opinions to bring to the table, he has, now that looking back, I can see it now, he had really, really great ideas on things, how to have fun, and we now have a line item on our budget that's called Love Fund, that are just it's just a little bit money tucked aside that we have set aside. He'll randomly buy me flowers, and I'll randomly buy him something. And it's just a way for us to love each other that's in our budget, so we can do it in like a healthy way. Yeah. Like you were saying, that merging together of the we is, I think, key, and to not resent each other, but to value each other's opinions, and to see them as valuable.
What other tips do you have?
So the second tip that I have for your audience is to get on the same page. I think when we both have two different ideas and you're operating in two different spaces,
worlds, universes,
you're going to be pulling in one direction and they're going to be pulling in the other. And when you're doing that, you're going to get nowhere, but at least financially. And so when you do get on the same page and see your spouse as your partner when it comes to finances, then you're going to make some serious momentum forward. Things like becoming debt-free. I think that's an amazing, just freeing thing to accomplish, that gives you so much freedom in career choices and where you want to live, and what you eat and it just totally opens up your potential and possibilities. So when you and your spouse get on the same page, that's game changer. And I think, at least in today, like, statistically, money is the second leading cause of divorce. And that just breaks my heart because money is meant to be a tool. It's not meant to be the deciding factor between whether a marriage succeeds or fails. And so to get each other onto the same page, I think that's what we're missing is that collective idea of, hey, we're in this together. We're a team and we can do really hard things together. Whatever that hard thing might, like for us, we had to pay off $225,000 in debt. That's a really hard thing to do. But you know what? We did it so much faster when we were together and on the same page. Because before we were making really slow progress because he was pulling in one direction, I was pulling in another. But when he said those famous, it's like literally a famous line in our marriage now. We can be debt free your way, but you're not going to like our marriage at the end of it. That's when the game changed for me. And I just knew, you know what? I want our marriage to be thriving and healthy and happy on the other side of this. I don't want us to be crushed and in this just awful marriage. I mean, who wants that, right? Like nobody gets married to say, yeah, I want to be miserable with you for forever. Nobody says that.
No. And so I'm guessing that what he was asking for in that moment weren't like big, expensive things. He just wanted a little line item here and there for a love fund.
Yeah, exactly.
He just wanted to feel some freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I think by him saying those words and by it finally clicking in my brain and for us to get on the same page, that's when it all started to make sense. And we started to make faster momentum towards achieving our financial goals is because we were in it together and we were looking at each other like teammates and not as enemies.
I think every marriage has a spender and a saver. I don't think two people are equal in that area. How do you deal with couples where one really is kind of on the, like it just feels like an impasse, like I really want to save. There's like, no, I really want to spend. How do you help them get on the same page?
Yeah, so that is through a lot of conversation. I feel like us as a society, money is viewed as this taboo topic to actually talk about and to talk through and to work through. And so when you sit down with each other and you actually look each other eye to eye and you ask the question, what are your financial goals? And they ask the same question of you, and you actually create space to have these conversations without thinking, oh, that's a dumb idea, or without having just put aside any of what you think is right. And you actually really hear out that other person. I think at the core of it, you'll find, hey, that's actually a good idea. It's actually a good idea to want to go on vacation. It's actually a good idea to want to save for retirement. All those things are good things. It's in that conversation, though, that I think we have to have as a couple that just opens up for possibility. When you are stuck in your own head and in your own thinking and in what you think is right, you're thinking this is the only way. It's my way or the highway, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what marriage is. That's really not what marriage is. It's again, this we conversation. And so it's having those healthy conversations and not shying away from them, and to know that, again, money is just a tool. It's not the deciding factor between whether a marriage succeeds or fails. But in order for it to become that tool, it needs to be healthy. And you need to have these conversations. And they might be hard. They might be a little tricky at first. But I promise as you go on and you continue to step into these hard spaces, it'll get easier and easier and easier. And so to go back to kind of early story of our story, those money conversations were really tough. And that's because we were both stuck in the logic of my way or the highway. But as we went on and as we realized, wow, you're not being malicious, or hey, that is actually a good idea, then those money conversations became so easy and almost effortless. We'll sit down once a month which is another tip, is we'll sit down once a month to talk about our budget, and we'll kind of break everything out for the month. And those conversations for us now are maybe 20 minutes, and that's it. And it's just this kind of easy breezy, effortless thing. But we had to put in the hard work at the beginning. It's like working out. I always kind of bring it back to working out, is when you're building up that muscle, you're going to be a little sore. It's going to hurt a little bit. But as you continue to build and grow that muscle, it gets a little easier to lift that same weight, right? So yeah.
Great. So I'm really curious. So you've of your 225,000, you've paid off like 160 of it or something like that.
Yeah, 163,000.
That's awesome. So do you have like a little thermometer chart that you like mark off at home, or do you like use I don't know what to call them, like paper chain links, and you cut one off for every 1,000? Like, what do you do? How are you celebrating this in your family?
So we for sure have on our fridge like a thermometer. It shows us how much debt we have left and how much we paid off. And we are counting down the days. We're anticipating under a year now. So by next September, we will be 100% debt free, and it'll be a joyous occasion in our household.
Great.
We joke that we're going to throw a big debt-free party with bounce houses and all the things and invite the whole neighborhood, just because we've been doing this and really working on this for so long. And it'll be just such a beautiful thing when we're done. And I feel like we'll finally be able to take a big, deep breath and actually, go on to some of our other financial goals that we have. So once we're debt free, we're going to throw a little celebration, and then we're going to take a trip to Hawaii and just live in Hawaii for like 2 weeks.
Nice. Yeah. So coming up with 163,000 extra above living expenses over the next year, it takes quite a bit of planning and effort. What are some of the tactics you and your husband are doing, and what can others listening to this today figure out what they can do?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So for us, we needed to set our priorities. So first and foremost, you need to, again, get on the same page with your spouse, but then set your, I would say top three financial priorities of what you want to accomplish. And so with that, and that's within the next year to 5 years. And for us, that was 100% to be debt free. And we wanted to go on a couple of vacations kind of scattered in between, not like super luxurious things, but like a camping trip and, just a couple small things to see family. And then we also wanted to invest a little bit into retirement. And this is all helpful information because I think when you set those three priorities, it just gives you a clear picture of what you want to accomplish, and it gives you something to achieve and to attain, because the classic saying is, when you fail to plan, you plan on failing. And I think that's so true when it comes to finances. If you're not aiming for a target, you're going to go all over the place. And so I would definitely set those three priorities. And then of course there's little things that you can do to kind of save. And by little things, I think all these little things add up, but by actually going and seeing if you can get better rates on all your insurances, I think you'll be amazed by just doing a little bit of shopping that insurance companies really want your money. And so they're going to go as low as they can go to get you a better rate. And so we've switched insurances a ton of times because we kept finding better deals. And that over the course of 5-6 years of us paying off debt has saved us thousands of dollars. And we've also done things like selling stuff we sold. So that brand new car that we bought, we took out student loan debts and a car, and that was it. That's the $225,000 was the collective of those two things. And so we sold that car back, and we got a paid for vehicle, because that was, again, a financial priority for us. And we don't need a fancy car. I work from home. I don't drive all that many places. And so by doing these little things, but again, it ties all back to getting and actually talking about those priorities and getting those really, really crystal clear, because when you do, the rest of the distractions, I think, will just fall away. So you won't be distracted by that really luxurious vacation because that'll come just in the future. And yes, I am 100% proponent for having fun in the process of paying off debt. Again, this is like the merging of my husband and I, but I realized that life is meant to have fun. You're supposed to enjoy life. And if you are just, scrounging and spending and cutting all your spending and, just not having any fun, I've found that you actually backslide on your goals because it's, again, like dieting. If you are saying, I can't have this, guess what you're going to want? You're going to want the pizza. You're going to want the ice cream. And it's the same thing with finances. If you say, I can't buy that, you're going to go and your willpower is going to burn out and you're going to go and buy the thing. So by having fun along the way, actually, I found will save you money in the long run. And also you get to enjoy life in the process. So those are just some of my tips to actually achieve financial goals. And I mean, I have a plethora more, but those are really the heavy hitters.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Get Your Marriage On. And if you did, we would love it if you would take a few seconds to give us a rating on iTunes and to share the show with your friends. They'll thank you for life. Once you've done that, you can head over to getyourmarriageon.com for more resources about today's topic and to download our amazing marriage apps. Now go get your marriage on.